recognize that these people are full of it, you know, in general. Then I came into the Moorish Science Temple because I was relatively doing some more research on Noble Drew Ali, because I recognized whenever you try to do some research on Noble Drew Ali, you'd run into these like brick wall type thing. You know how like when you're doing research and some investigations and then you get so far and then everything goes blank? Then by that dynamics, it made me even more curious because it made me recognize that people were uncomfortable. So it made me recognize, they're hiding something. And then the more research I did, the more I found out that, and particularly when I got a hold of the FBI papers, and then discovered, and I also did some research in Library of Congress, and then I got some information on the history of American religions. And of course, with the FBI papers and history on American religions, I traced most of these so-called big black organizations between 1930 and 1934 directly to the old Moorish Holy Temple of Science, i.e. break-offs from the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then I began to recognize why a lot of these people don't want to talk about Noble Drew Ali, because there was a great sellout and an infiltration from Calvin Coolidge and J. Edgar Hoover into the organization in order to break it down. Are we clear? Now, logically, when people that are in these orders don't even speak about it, it has to give you pause on their motives also. You get the point? Yes, and then also I recognized, as I did more research, I found a letter from Noble Drew Ali which he commanded to be read before every meeting, and I noticed that that letter was not read before every meeting. Of course, that made me suspicious too. Now, and there was a lot of other dynamics that took place relative to things that I did when I came into the temple, including finally finding a bus for them. Since they keep on collecting finance for a bus and the bus never appears, I went out on Route 73 and got a bus for them, and then became a pariah, and I couldn't understand that. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, Lord.
I did work in the temple, etc., expanded, fixed the bathroom, put new electric in, fixed some windows, did some concrete work in the back, you understand, so that the sisters would have a place to go to the bathroom. Then behind my back, I got accused of going to take it over the temple. Of course, I was in the temple 6 months and was totally unqualified. I was just doing what I figured we supposed to do. Aren't we supposed to do this type of stuff? Then meanwhile, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, his wife, the reincarnated Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Eva, had came down to the temple, number 10 in Camden. And I was leaving, was at Sunday school. Sunday school was over, and I was leaving, and it was approximately about 4 o'clock, a little bit after 4, or something like that. And it was on Liberty Street in Camden. And she came to the door and was asking for me. Someone pointed me out. I was in the street getting ready to get in my car and getting ready to leave with my sisters, etc. And someone pointed me out to her, and she walked down to my conveyance and began to talk. And she had a copy of Moors Uniting of a Nation, and that's one of the first books I did for my children, actually. And I had Keisha on there, Amir, Shamsuddin, etc. And all their clothes, they had Moorish costumes on, and all of them I sewed for them. So I made those clothes for them, and they were on the cover of my first book. And she asked me, was I the one who did that book? Now, of course, because all the other stuff that was going on in the background, I thought I was in trouble, which I usually do get in trouble that way. Then she asked me to come to Chicago. She said, I've never met anyone who's interpreted the second chapter of the Holy Quran so precisely. We need you, come to Chicago. And I told her I could not come. I said, I'm not qualified, I've only been in the temple 6 months, etc. But anyway, she talked to me, and they're still going back into the temple because they had prepared the temple for her. Whenever they have dignitaries, they always prepare the temple to receive them in the chambers. And that whole day that she came down there, we stood outside until it got dark, and she talked to me. Now, of course, after that, it became, the rumors that were going around became stronger. You know, that she had sent me down there for some reason to take over the temple, which was totally not true, because I never even met her. etc. But what they started doing was attacking my sisters, because I brought my sisters in and my brothers. And with most families, that's pretty rare that you're able to bring all your families in.
Yeah.
My sister's husband was in the lodge, Mason. As a matter of fact, both of my other sisters. And both of them came into the temples, which is a rare thing to do. And so we needed more chairs. And of course, I built a rostrum. I made a clock with Morse flag in it. I made a plastic on the wall, etc. Thought I was improving things, but of course, it created a lot of petty jealousy and stuff, which I could not understand. Anyway, that was the dynamics there. And now my sister, one of my sisters, Matala, and we had, you know, the girls, her girls were young, and we'd bring the girls, and we would come there, and we would always put extra finance in to make things work. At any rate, they talked some of the Moors into investing in this thing down in Glassboro. I'm not Glassboro, I think it's in, yeah, Glassboro, yeah. Yeah, anyway. But of course, and they had some European. Anyway, they squandered the finance, etc. The usual thing, misrepresentation to the tune of thousands and thousands of notes from the Moors, etc. And we were in the temple, you know, for like at that time, you know, going on like 3 years and stuff like that. And my sisters, they rarely missed a meeting. The meetings were Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. Dues were always paid up. We always put extra in, and we'd always do extra things, but it became apparent that they were running sort of like cliques, partiality type things going on.
Yeah.
Now, and they wouldn't give my sister her Quran, even after all the participation, we put in extra finance, etc., and they would not give her a Quran. And so my sister was really, really hurt because of the sacrifices over the years and the contributions she's made, and so she was getting discouraged. Now, my niece Kia, which is my sister's oldest daughter, the Grand Sheikh finally sent the Quran to my sister through Kia, and he wrapped it in dirty, wrinkled, coffee-stained Carrier Post newspaper and sent it to my sister. She cried and never came back to the temple. Then my other sister did not come anymore. And they started attacking everybody I brought into the temple, because actually over half the people that was in the temple at that time came in by virtue of me taking this information to the street and bringing people into the temple, and the temple actually got too small. So they would attack everybody I put in the temple, and at that time, I recognized, I went back, you know, and looked over my experiences of dealing with these different orders, and recognized that I was a pariah, whether I liked it or not. And so at that time, and I started doing classes at my house anyway. And so in 1982, I officially founded Moors Order of the Round Table, knowing that if I did not establish a jurisdiction out from underneath that chiefdom, that they would do everything they could to block me from dispensing the information to the people, which the prophet told us that is what to be done. He says, I've given you more than enough to save yourselves. Now go out on my word and redeem your people. And logically, I thought that was the order of the day, until I tried to do it and recognize that you constantly get opposition. You start trying to establish the school, you constantly get opposition. You start trying to get a bus that they've been collecting for 50 years for that never appears, and you'll constantly get opposition. And then they ostracize you if you start dealing with knowledge. If you start dealing with testimony stuff like they do in the church, everyone's happy. You start dealing with facts that start bringing cures and remedies to people, and all of a sudden the people who should be doing it in leadership become your enemies, even though that's not what you seek. And when you think they'd be happy, well, it's not true. And logically, that is why we're talking today. There's a lot more to it, but as a synopsis, that's why we're talking today. That's why I'm on Skype with you today.
Thank you.
Brother Taj, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm Karo Day. When Noble Drew Ali received the mandate in Havana.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Okay. Let me get the door closer.
Yeah.
So when you're speaking, speak directly into the mic because your voice is breaking up from the background.
Just talk loud. Just talk loud. All right. In this Cairo Day, Emotep, in 1928, when Noble Drew Ali went to Havana, Cuba for the mandate and received the mandate, why was it lost? And why is it now in Switzerland? And why do we have to now reclaim a mandate that was already given in 1928?
All right. Now, look into your questionnaire. Give me the questionnaire. How did Noble Drew Ali begin to uplift the Moorish Americans?
By teaching them they were not black equals to coloreds or Moors.
How did Noble Drew Ali begin to uplift the Moorish Americans?
By teaching them to be themselves.
Teaching them to be themselves.
By teaching them to be themselves. Now, in law, everyone must know the distinction between a privilege and an inherited birthright. Is everybody clear about the distinction between a privilege and an inherited birthright?
Yes, Islam.
A privilege can be sold or licensed or removed. And a birthright is unalienable, inalienable, not transferable to or capable of being sold or transferred to another. Noble Drew Ali brought us back our nationality and our birthrights. Am I correct?
Islam.
Can that birthright be converted into a crime of a privilege and transported to Switzerland or any daggone place else on a piece of paper?
No.
Thank you.
If that is understood, then declare your nationality. Thus Noble Drew Ali said, and he said this relative to the thieves amongst us. He says, do not put a burden on my Moors. He says, if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality. And he said, nationality is free. He said, but it takes finance to raise a nation. Thus he set up an order by which we can, through our political forum, demonstrate our competence and learn those things necessary to be better citizens of our nation that we have neglected because we have not answered up to the constitutional fold of government. Thus the Moorish movement is established. The cause being reflected by the Moorish movement, not to be confused with a building or a temple, which is only a vehicle by which that information is to be dispensed. Are we clear?
Islam.
When the people start confusing a building or a piece of paper with the birthright itself, then they don't understand the difference between de facto and de jure issues. They don't understand the difference between unalienable substantive right versus privileges. They don't understand the issue between de jure versus color. They don't understand the difference between money, gold, and silver coin versus fiat, etc., etc. And they don't know the difference between true religion and dogma. And thus the Moorish Divine and National Movement is set in place to clarify those matters amongst all descendants of the ancient Moabites, Canaanites of the planet Earth, who are the direct heirs of the world's largest estate that has been veiled under Pope Innocent III through the Treaty of Verona, i.e., and the heirs of that estate being branded Negro, Black, and Colored, etc., for the purpose of the corporate entity states to escheat all their inheritances. Thus, the Securities and Exchange for-profit corporation called the U.S. Democracy Corporation was established by the Jesuit order in order to steal the birthrights of the Moors of Northwest of North America. That is a sanguineous birthright inherited right. Do you need any organization or any hoop jumping order for you to reclaim what is yours by birth?
No.
Islam.
So, the reason I asked that question is speaking with Pleasant Bay regarding him going to Switzerland with a census of how many Moors are registered as Moors, and I didn't think you need to be registered or anything to be.
And what do we know about Switzerland? This is what we know about Switzerland. Right. That while all the corporations, the corporate entity countries around the world have been subdued by the order of the Jesuit order under canon law, that Trafalgar spoke up, which I'm going to read in a minute, etc., from the congressional records, because everyone should be quite aware of what is done from the alleged seat of government operating here in North Mexico under the guise of this dissolved order of the Jesuit order called the U.S.